In the last lecture, you designed your survey. I think you'll agree that was very, very simple process, very quick to do. And I even gave you my survey to model to really make it even easier for you. Now in this lecture, you're going to start distributing your survey, getting it out in front of people so they can give you feedback on your idea and give you suggestions to even improve it more. To distribute it, it's very, very simple. You just click on the copy button here. This will take this URL and then you can really paste that anywhere around the internet. You also have the option here to launch the survey in a pop-up on your website or embed it in a web page, but I'm assuming you don't have a website, so really you can post this almost anywhere. But before you do, I'd really recommend that you check that the survey actually is working. So to do that, open up a new tab, paste the survey link in there that you've already copied, press Ctrl V. Open up the survey and try and look at it now from the perspective of a person that's seeing this for the first time. So look at the URL, look at the title of the page. Does that kind of make sense? Does that tell people what this page is about? Also, I would read through the questions. Do they make sense? Are they easy to answer? Are they short enough to answer? And I'd even recommend, if you find it hard to look at this from an outsider's perspective, get somebody who hasn't seen this before. I asked my girlfriend to come in and sit down and answer these questions. And looking at it through somebody else's eyes, you can really see obviously where some of the mistakes are. One thing that she had pointed out for me is that my first question was about a sentence longer than this. It just looked a little bit intimidating. It was overly wordy. It wasn't necessary, and I could have asked the same question in a much shorter way, and I changed that based on her feedback. So I think it's very interesting if you can get somebody else and ask for their perspective. If not, I would just read the questions aloud to yourself, and if they're not easy, just reword them to make them even easier. I would also make sure you answer the questions then. Go through the process as if you were somebody answering it. See if it's easy, see if it's makes sense, the flow of the questions and the structure of them, and click through those. I'd also recommend that you skip over the unrequired questions, just as if you were a person who did want to answer those, and submit them to see if that works, to see if they really are not required. And then to check that that's all worked perfectly, come back into your admin panel, come over to Analyze, and now you will see the metrics at a high level. You can see that I've done this a couple of times, and come into your results, and now you will see the answers that you've submitted here. You can see I did it once where I didn't answer the fourth and fifth question. I did it another time where I did answer them, and those answers are being populated. So it's working perfectly. You can also add in Google Analytics. I did this when I tested this out. You can add it essentially as a separate page on your website, but the information wasn't that helpful, so I don't think it's really a necessary step, because you can see the number of visitors that have taken the surveys, the number of unique visitors. So for me, I didn't see any benefit of adding Google Analytics in for a very short survey like this. Returning to distribution then, we've tested that it works. Now it's time to actually get it out in front of your audience. So how do you do that? Well, if you have any online presence at all, I recommend you post a survey there, and you can send it out by email, etc., even to friends, colleagues, people in your industry. Start getting the word out there and getting them to answer the question. The key thing is that you want to get it in front of your buyer persona that you would have written down in the marketing plan earlier in the course, and think about who are those people, where are they hanging out online, the 5 different places you wrote down. And if you've no ideas at all, if you've no friends or no social media connections, I would go into specific Facebook groups where your buyer persona is. They're very easy to find and search within Facebook, and post your URL there. And I think the way that you ask is really much more important than where, I think, because for every different person, it's going to be different where their audience is. So the different Facebook groups, the different Google Plus groups, the different LinkedIn groups, the different forums. They're going to be different really depending on your product. I think the best thing that I can tell you is the way to ask. This is going to be the same across no matter what type of business you have or where your audience is. So to give you an example, what I actually did was I sent this survey to students in a free Udemy course that I have. So this is where I sent the survey. Now, I'm not saying that you have to build a Udemy course, put it up for free to get people to answer your survey. It certainly worked for me, but I think a quicker way is just to paste it into those Facebook groups. I really want to show you this to show you the way that I asked, and I think this is really the key lesson for you. So first of all, I started with a title that I think would engage them. So this is going to be the subject line that appears at the top of their email. This is going to be the title of a post in Facebook in a group. You really wanted to grab their attention. And so what I said here is, I'm making a new course for you and I'd love your input. So immediately I'm talking about what I'm doing for them. I'm solving their problem. And I think that's very different to how I see a lot of other people post surveys. They say, will you do me a favor and answer these 4 questions? No, I'm not going to do you a favor. But if you're making something for me, I will answer that. And so I think you really got to turn it on its head. You're really not, they're not doing a favor for you. You're really doing a favor for them. Hopefully you're solving a problem that they have. And if you are, they're going to answer it. So I'm making a new course for you. I'm going to help solve your problems and I'd love your input. So you're really asking for their suggestions and ideas. Everybody loves to be heard. Everybody loves to hear their opinions listened to. So I think it's a much better way to ask and get the results that you want, and ultimately build a better relationship then with the new person. I put in a visual here. I think this is important, especially if you're posting on groups, social media, even in an email, just to bring it to life a little bit more. Obviously, I haven't built the course much, so I just used the branding, a slide on PowerPoint and a little logo. That's it. And I just took a picture of it, a screenshot, and I just pasted it in. So very, very simple, but it does bring it to life maybe a little bit more than having nothing there. Then I really focused on how easy it was for them to give their feedback. 4 short questions. That's a bit of a typo. It should have been 5. It only takes 2 minutes. That was pretty accurate in terms of how long it took to complete. And you'll know that from going through it yourself. And then check out the bonus question if you'd like to get early access. So there's a bit of a bonus in there for them. This is not the end of the story. You're going to be following up with them later on. So what I will do is I'll take a picture of this now, and I'll paste this into the resources section of this lecture, so you have the language there that you can really model for yourself. To recap on this lecture, in order to distribute your survey, firstly, check for spelling mistakes, get a friend to review it for you, check if those metrics are being recorded. That's the key thing before you even think about sending it out. Then in terms of distributing it, you want to send it to your buyer persona, really the buyer persona you wrote down in your marketing plan. You want to post it on social media, email, Facebook groups, Google Plus groups, any forums online, essentially where your buyer persona is going to be hanging out. And then finally, make sure that when you do that, you don't just throw it out there. You got to think about the way that you ask, make it sound like you are solving their problems, which hopefully you are, with a good solution. And I think if you position it that way, you're going to get much more responses and make it sound like you do actually want to listen and hear to people's opinions, because that's really how you're going to get the best feedback. So that is really how to distribute your survey. In the next lecture, I'm going to show you how to analyze your results, really looking at the results that I got. I'm going to point out some of the key takeaways that I took out, the insights that I took out that were really helpful for me. So I'll see you in the next lecture.